Greetings everyone. Welcome to today's session for Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water. This session is conducted with the support of Water Resource Council of Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in collaboration with W for W Foundation and media partner Counterview. My name is Anubhuti Shekhar and I am the National Youth Representative Community of Wiki Water Resource Council. I am joined by Dr. Mansi Balbhargav, who is currently holding the position of National President of Wiki Water Resource Council and also the Founder Director of W for W Foundation. Welcome, Mansi. We are glad to start the conversation, namely Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water, which we colloquially refer as Blue Lips. The conversation is aimed to share the worries and the wisdom by the woman, for the woman, of the woman in the water sector. In here, we hope to learn about the water endeavors of the woman in a regular disciplined manner like a masterclass. Today, in this session, we are here to listen and know more about Neha Sarwate. Neha is an architect and environmental planner with 20 years of multi-locational professional experience and 14 years of academic engagements in Gujarat. Prior to relocating to India, she has worked as a planner with private consulting firms and US government authorities. She has been engaged in awareness, advocacy, and alternative initiatives for rivers, especially Vishwamitri River in Vadodara, and is pursuing her PhD in environmental planning with a focus on river system. Her academic activities focus on sensitizing the budding design professional towards the interrelations between human and natural resources, especially water system and ethical practices. Welcome, Neha. We are so happy to have you on today's session. To start the conversation, I would like to know how did you decide to show interest on the environmental side of the architecture? Because whenever we look at architecture, it's more about development, and at least at your time now, especially students are getting aware about the climate change and the impact development is having on the environment. But how did you decide years ago that you want to look for something that is more sustainable for our environment? So how do you associate your career with water, and how did you realize you belong here?
Thanks, Anubhuti. Hi, Mansi. Hello, everybody. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my viewpoints and my experiences. This question actually takes me back till my third or fourth year of architecture, when I'm from Bombay and I did my architecture from Bombay. So as students of architecture, we have this subject called services, water services and water supply and sanitation. And all our calculations were always based on water tank calculations and sewage treatment and stuff like that. But nobody ever taught us or nobody ever told us where the water reaches the overhead tanks that we designed for as architects. And my experiences because we're a coastal city, I had seen sewage being dumped directly into the ocean, and I had seen aquatic life being affected, especially crabs, because Marine Drive was one of my favorite hotspots to hang out. And that made me question, where does this water come from and where does this water go? And my journey with water began there, and that is when I realized that I should, get into more, or I wanted to get into more water-related understanding. And I decided that I'd like to pursue environmental planning, right, since my fourth year of architecture. So that observation with the city and this whole association with the citizens, especially the fishermen of Bombay, the Mahim-Worli area, and the Methi River in Bombay. So that is what, actually got me thinking. And I decided to, pursue my future career in environmental planning. And I was more focused on water. And my master's in environmental planning, I was in a city called Tempe in Arizona, US, which was a desert area. And the water resources there, the water management there. I was exposed to watershed approach or watershed based thinking, and that is what got me inside. So even though I practiced urban planning in a lot of ways, but I did not get, I did not lose focus of that whole water connection. So even through my urban planning interventions, when I was the planner with the city of Pittsburgh, that whole relationship of urban dwellings and urban fabric and water systems was always there. So that's how I started my journey with water.
Right. Thank you so much, Neha, ma'am, for telling how did you decide and how did you start your journey in the field of environment, especially how did you got associated with water. I think now that I have met so many architects who are inclined towards environment and river, so it's not very surprising for me. But whenever we go out and talk to architects, it's mostly more about buildings and development without concerning the environment. So it was great to know. I would love to know, how are you currently engaged in the sector right now? Like, what are you currently working on? If you can tell us briefly.
Sure, sure. Actually, it's multiple points of connect. One is primarily I'm teaching in the Master of Urban and Regional Planning program, and through my academic interventions, I do try to sensitize students with watersheds. I teach the subject of ecology and planning. So how do you look at interrelationships and all? So that is one perspective. The second is I've been associated with the Vishwamitri River and this whole journey of pro river front development versus anti river front development. But it has always been a struggle to get the viewpoint across that a river is a living system and it should not be looked upon as just a mere project, as an engineering project. So my connection with Vishwamitri is at ground level also, and also with the authorities, engaging with the authorities and working around the system, working with the system, trying to get a breakthrough. Very difficult, and Rohit Bhai is here, and so that is the current thing. I have also been following the Sabarmati case pretty closely, so that is my association with rivers and water right now.
Right. Thank you so much. Over these years, how would you tell us that your task that you are doing or the activities that you are engaged with was difficult or very rewarding for you? Like you mentioned about river engagement with Vishwamitra River and the struggles behind it. So would you like to share some instance with us that was very rewarding, or how was your experience in this?
It's been a bittersweet experience, and it's been hard. It's been really hard. A lot of time, energy, a lot of patience has been required in this whole process. It took about 5 years, from starting to, especially with the NGT case, to work around, to be very diligent about what we are talking about with the authorities, with the Baroda citizenry. So it has been tough. At the same time, it has been rewarding because somewhere we've managed to, make a dent in the system. Somewhere we've managed to, either through the NGT or through the authorities over here. It started with the, the stay order for the riverfront development, with a lot of multi-pronged efforts with the authorities. It was very rewarding, when the Vishwamitri Riverfront project was withdrawn. I mean, that was a sigh of relief, very big sigh, because everywhere on the country, all the riverfront development projects were going on, and the struggles were enormous. So at some point, as a group in Baroda, it was very rewarding. I'm a member of about, we're a group of about 12 to 15 multi-subject experts. So-called experts. We call ourselves experts, but I don't know. We keep trying and pushing our way through. And then it was the NGT order, where the final order, where the river was given its definition, at least an attempt at defining what a river is. So all that we've been teaching in the classroom has, found itself somewhere trickling down into the, court orders. And that is rewarding. At some point, we feel that, at least I felt that the work that we're doing on ground is making some difference somewhere.
Right. Thank you so much, Neha, for sharing that part of your story. But usually, whatever conversation or interviews you must have had, this is something different than the usual, because here we are mostly focusing on Neha as a woman and how her journey has been. So, how do you balance your life? Like, was it a difficult task to balance the work and the professional life? Would you like to share how do you balance all these years? Was there any compromises that you had to make for the journey that you had chosen?
Oh, lots. We are still a very patriarchal society. For a woman to, or for a lady to come in and talk to a room full of men, to make your presence felt, to get them to understand that we're also I mean business, or I know what I'm talking about, was a tough uphill task, because as a woman you get taken very lightly, especially where the governance or the government machinery is there. They do not respect women. They look down upon women. So at some point, at many points, I've had to put my foot down. I've had to raise my voice. My pitch has gone up many times. Yes, it had to, whether it is an engineer or a commissioner, I've had to, voice my opinion with conviction. And that took a lot of courage, to be very honest. When I was in the US, it was easy because the platform was there for everybody to participate, and it was a very, fair platform. But in India, it is very difficult for women to come, especially, when you are one or two of the women around in a room full of, I, me, myself, men. Chauvinistic men at that, and who think they are the everything. And even as a group, to work within this group, we've had we are two women with a bunch of men in our group, internal group as well. And ego clashes are huge, when you have to challenge or put your point across, which is not what men normally feel, my male counterparts. So the ego hassle was there. They felt threatened at times, and it was a very tough journey to to come on an even ground, and the insecurities that men faced. So we've had a lot of ups and downs internally in our groups as well, and it was very tough to come back with, and to be patient and to persevere with it was tough. And I think all of that gets reflected in the in your personal life as well. So I have two kids. One is a teenager, one is a preteen. So those challenges are there when you are giving so much time onto the ground and onto the work that you believe in, along with your full-time job. Then family suffers at some point, and it's very difficult to justify that absence from the home front. So there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of communicating. At the end of the day, at a personal level, you're drained out, and I was drained out a lot of times, because you're trying to juggle so many balls. You're trying to keep everybody happy. You're trying to make sure that things are running smoothly at all ends. And especially when you're doing all these things, there are people out there who take full opportunity and to pull you down at some point, to show that you're not doing something at one end, you're compromising with your responsibilities at one end. So managing the responsibilities, the duties, and the passion is has been very difficult. Of course, it's taken a toll on my health as well. And on the personal front, my PhD has suffered by at least a year or two. It's been delayed. So of course, at some point, you win some, you lose some. It's not an all lose battle, but yes, it's difficult for women in our society to contribute effectively and to survive, because you are not only battling against a mindset, but you're battling against, sometimes it's women who tend to put you down. Unfortunately, women who have a very high patriarchal mindset, or and there's women who try to not pull you down in a sense, but who try to show you that you are not worth it, or you're not doing your job good enough. And that is disheartening, actually, because as women, we tend to think that we want to support each other because we've all been through that at some point in our lives, but that's not the case. So for a woman in our society, you're struggling alone. There is no help circle, or there's no such support system, as we call it. So it's difficult to survive. So far, I've made it. I don't know how long I'll make it, but I'll hope for the best.
Right. Thank you so much, Neha ma'am. I think through Wiki Water Resource Council, we are trying to bring that gap. We are trying to fill that gap where we are gonna be the supporters of each other. So I hope you find the best of the women here in the council itself. It was lovely knowing about you and your journey. I would hand it over to Mansi ma'am to take it forward from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Anubhuti. Thank you so much to initiate this conversation, first of all. And I see that you are slowly enjoying meeting all these waterpreneurs from across the country, and you take it so well now. And yes, Neha, we have been knowing each other for quite some time, and it is definitely a privilege to know someone who thinks alike, and then if we have people like Rohit sir alongside, it is a big, assurance for people like us to keep doing what we love to do.
No, so, he's been a pillar of support, actually.
Yes, so it's really privileged to have people like Rohit sir, and even Ajit sir is here. So that women like us who are really trying to do something which we think is important and also right for the society, and we both are deeply connected with the fact of riverfront, where we have often spoken to each other more about riverfront than about our lives. And that actually gives me a very small example to know that you were also in Tempe, whereas I was also in Tempe for a year as Fulbright professor. And now I come to know, because we never talk about ourselves, which is the very idea at Wiki Water Resource Council, this Monday Munching, because we want to know you more as women. And we want to know how women like you and many others, we are approaching 50 sessions now, you must be aware of it, how we have been really trying to do something which we are convinced about, and yet, as you mentioned, juggling through this whole, because water problem is patriarchal problem. We also know that, and again, bringing Rohit sir here in the conversation. And he has also written a lot about it, in this whole problem. So let me take this conversation further to discuss about role of women in the water sector and the leadership, because through these sessions, and also through the Wiki Water Resource Council, which is based on a sisterhood concept, where we want to handhold each other and really support when required, collaborate professionally when required. You must be aware, and you are going through it also, about the lack of leadership from the women's side in the water sector. When we started our career, you and me, we were really short of role models. But people like Anubhuti and the generation next will not have that problem. And we are trying to work towards it, so that in future people are looking up to some role models, So we are really seeing all of you as water leaders. But knowing the fact, as of today, we are very much short of women water leaders. one thing is probably it is because of the patriarchal society, but can you really highlight few other aspects with why we are so much short of women leaders in the water sector? Because global standard says 1 in 5 is a woman professional. India is even worse than that. But when we talk about professional and move on to a professional becoming a leader, the number is still, very bleak. What are your takes on this?
I also feel that women don't understand, or people or women don't know their potential fully. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think women underestimate themselves. And I also feel that women tend to submit themselves. They're very submissive. They become submissive very easily to the society and the societal expectations. And just because you give that those expectations priority, and you're not empowered enough. So one is, if women start voicing their opinions strongly and openly, that would make a huge difference. Women don't do that. I've not seen a lot of women, coming out in the open and standing up for what they think is right. They always have this fear of, if I say this, I'll get sacked, or I'll be reprimanded, or I'll be looked down upon. So those kind of inhibitions are there, and I think it's a very deep-rooted problem in our society that deals with upbringing. And it also depends on how women, the backgrounds that we come from. So to break the barriers of those, mindsets is a big challenge for women. And it is also I think it's also willingness to do something, willingness to stand up for what is right. They're so overwhelmed with so many duties and responsibilities. We still live in a society, where the woman is working, she's still supposed to and expected to take care of her so-called primary, duties and responsibilities in the home front. So then when the woman is coming out, she's anyways juggling between home and work. And if in the environment in either one of the places is not empowering or enabling, for her to be comfortable to perform her duties and responsibilities, then it becomes even a bigger challenge. So I think society has a role to play. There needs to be a lot of awareness in society that women are capable of doing much more than what they are doing right now. Women themselves need to get that confidence, the self-confidence that they can do, and it's not so difficult. It's not an uphill, task to go to the moon and back or whatever. It's doable. It's about priorities and preferences also. So, and how much importance and how much weightage women give to the so-called patriarchal expectations of them. So that is a big challenge for us to overcome. Second, I think the professional environment that we work in, especially the one that I'm experiencing right now, is also, not very conducive for women to perform and to take on additional responsibilities. We are almost an all-woman department in our university. We only, I think, one male faculty, and other male in our administrative areas. But that whole networking amongst each other and boosting each other's confidence, just standing up for each other, that is also not there, or that's lacking or missing. In the education sector, we do see a lot of women, but they themselves are so put down. So then I don't know what one can what one can expect when they actually contribute to the younger generation. So I mean, I'm somebody who would point fingers at me first. So I, being a woman, I'd like to first analyze the mindset of women themselves before blaming the society. The society will remain patriarchal as long as we allow them to. The day
Yes.
the day we step up and we break our shackles, the society will accept us, and they will be forced to listen. So I think as women, we ourselves need to understand our potential better.
Yeah. Thank you. I think you made a very important point and also sharing experience, because I had a very short stint with academic circles. And yes, despite so many women around, I could not really realize the sisterhood idea. We are hand holding each other and, walking longer than one or two people walking higher. That is also a difference. And this is where I often talk about in many platforms where I'm going to talk about women leadership and all. Many a time when women are, rising those ladders of leadership, they often internalize the patriarchy or the masculinity in themselves. And many women leaders, unfortunately, I find them more male or masculine than many men around. So
True,
it is the struggle which makes them like that. And that is a biggest risk I see in the women leadership, that we really have to hold on to our feministic values, and which are very close to ecosystem, which are very close to environment, which are very close to empathy. And if those are lost in the walk to leadership, I think we have to really rethink leadership, because in a way leadership is a gender neutral situation. But we are talking about women in the leadership because there is absence of women in the leadership. So because you talked about that women have to really take those extra steps or think about that they can do it and all, my next question to you is more on those tangible skills also required. So one thing is this intangibility, I will call it, as patriarchy or the mindset and all. But additionally, I make it very clear when I'm talking to all of you in this platform that one thing is to be very good professional. And we have quite a number of good professionals, which is still less in terms of having a gender parity in the water sector. But let's say we are less than 20% still in the water sector. But becoming a good professional does not really make you a natural good leader. There are additional skills which are required to be a good leader between among the people, among other women, or among the fraternity of any. Well, like you mentioned, you are part of many associations out there. What do you think? What are the other skills which are required? Either they are inborn in the woman, or they can really nurture, or they can be mentored to inherit, or to really, embrace those extra skills to be really seen as leaders, and also they themselves feel more confident about it. I'm asking this question mainly because we really want to start some of those leadership skill programs for our sisters in future. So I'm really gathering information from all of you as part of the research, and so that we can start thinking about it. Over to you, Neha.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. When you talk of skill sets as women, so we have some intrinsic, by nature we are nurturers. We
Yes.
tend to think from that perspective in the ecosystem. So I think as women, the inborn quality that we have, the inherent quality that we have, is about networking and hand holding. That comes very natural to us. But there are other skill sets, that we need to learn in case of, in terms of communication, in better and effective communication. We also need to keep emotions aside at some point, because women tend to get very emotionally attached to a lot of issues, and the rational thinking, or the rational framework or mindset that we bring with that gets compromised. And I think that is what gets singled out and overruled in society, and at a professional level. So we need to keep, it's good to think emotionally, but we also need to balance emotion with rational. And I would not call it practicality. I think women are very practical, but to be able to discern what is right over wrong, what is good over bad, we need to have clarity on that. And I see that that feature little lacking in women, because we tend to go with the flow. So if somebody is talking about something, then that whole bantering starts, without actually thinking through the whole process. And we sometimes tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So the bath water is so much that the baby loses significance, if I can bring that analogy in.
Yes.
So one, we need to start focusing on the baby and not the bath water, because the bath water will be dirty irrespective of what you do. So that attitudinal change in the woman that needs to come as us. And second is, we also sometimes, this whole, in leadership specifically, this whole thing of power gets the better of us at some point, because you are fighting your one, like you rightly said, Mansi, we are few in number. So when you're in a position of power or at a leadership position, we are also trying to safeguard our own position, that no, our position is not overstepped by others. So in the process of keeping our hold, we try to supersede, or we try to overlook this whole duty of hand holding and nurturing. So the balance between keeping your position of power and to empower, to create an enabling environment as a leader, is something that we cannot manage to do. And that's
how do we do that? That is a question.
Yeah.
How do we learn that to people?
So from me, it's been a tough process. I mean, I've been through this process, that we don't emotionally get all enraged and stuff like that, but to take a step back. We also need to learn how to take a pause and how to reflect and introspect. That is something that we need to give ourselves, that constant reminder, before we before we react. We need to take a pause and then respond in the best manner in the situation that is there. So that impulsive nature that we have of immediately reacting to situations, because we've always been trained to be like a battlefront as professional women, where you have to safeguard your position at every time. So that impulsive nature sometimes takes the better of us. So how do we manage that? It's a skill. It takes time. That patience has to be nurtured. It has to be cultivated, and that comes only through a very strong support system.
So just out of this question, I'm getting curious, because you so well articulate this. I'm curious, have you come across some wonderful women leaders in these 20 years of your career? And
Yes.
if you would like to share something about them.
Sure. Unfortunately, both the examples are from the US. They've been my ex-bosses. The first one who hired me, the city of Pittsburgh, she was a director at that time, and we I don't know how I was hired at that point in time, but she showed some confidence in me. And because I was not a US citizen, for them to sponsor my H1 visa was an uphill task for the department and for the city. But she still stood by. She said, "No, I believe in this, and I stand by it." And she, went out in the whole political setup to make sure my H1 was sponsored by the government there. And in that, she showed faith, that if I'm showing faith in you, then she will perform. And she gave me a lot of opportunities, and she mentored me. So mentoring is a very big role of a woman leader. And at points, I used to get frustrated, and I used to tell her, what is this? So she said, no, you have to be patient, and you have to, work your way through. And she also, told me at, some point that you don't fight for credibility all the time. Sometimes your ideas get not stolen per se, but they get accepted without giving you due credit. But don't give up on that. As long as it's happening for the greater good, think of it as your contributions. These are just small things that empower you to keep going. So she was I really look up to her. then. And
Interesting.
yeah, then the second one was also, she came down, she came a year or two later, and she was also the director. So she faced a lot of discrimination also, not discrimination because of her color or race or whatever, but gender. A woman's, director of city planning being a woman with a whole lot of political counselors out there, all male and white male, to be very, clear on that. So it was an uphill task, and she balanced a lot. And I mean, she also had a family, and being a director of city planning, you have to deal with a lot of different kind of people. And I have seen her, I have not seen her lose her calm and composure at any given time. She would be really mad, or she would disagree with whatever is happening, but she never let go of her, of her stature. I mean, she just managed to keep calm. She managed to stay put, and she managed to sail through. I mean, allegations came and went, and everything was, it's all pretty
Part
dirty.
of the game.
It's part of the game. But how do you still stand by with your conviction is very important. And that is something I have, learned, and I really admire. So
Interesting.
we are two women.
Yeah, interesting. I hope when you come across more of the Wiki Water Resource Council women and get to know more of them, you will also find many more women who you can really admire and all. And we are really trying to gather more women like you here, especially for the younger generation to look up to some people, and that brings me to another question. Because much of the time in water sector where a lot of work is done on women or for women for that matter, because it's like a synonym to water sector when we say that women bear the brunt of the water crisis. And often it is seen in that Abla Nari syndrome, the vulnerable woman whom we have to provide water to. And this is a very stereotyped way of looking at women. And personally, after taking over the Wiki Water Resource Council, I realized that that is actually harming more the professional part of the women in the water sector, or leadership part of the women in the water sector. Because the moment we say women in water, the first impression or imagination people have is that Abla Nari.
True.
And so when we are working in this part of highlighting the leadership side of it, yes, there are professional women who needs to be acknowledged and appreciated, because each professional woman means we are talking about even probably 200-500 women who are in that vulnerable side, who can really feel more motivated or encouraged when they look up to you people. So how do you think people who are, I call ourselves empowered, as compared to the general impression of Abla Nari syndrome? At least we are not carrying the water from the wells to house, but we are still taking care of the water requirements or family requirements. But if we have to talk about leadership in that way, how do you think that we people who have reached this far with a lot of struggles? I mean, we have never talked about each other's struggle, but I learned a little bit from you about you. But I think we all have a large portion of our life going through struggles, and much of the struggle is about proving our worth to our family, then to our fraternity, and then to the entire profession, and then comes the society that we are working. When we are in this kind of setup and we have reached this far up with you with 2 decades and me with 3 decades nearly, what do you think now we can make a difference, or how can we make a difference to nurture more women presence and participation in the water sector? See, unless and until we increase the presence and participation, we are not producing more professionals. Unless and until more professionals are getting groomed into leadership, it's like a pyramid, so I'm imagining it like this. How do you think now we can really take that extra step, now that we feel we are more confident or comfortable? And people like me, I mean, I give damn to my career now, to be very honest on it. I mean, I don't care who thinks what, I will do what I feel like doing. So we have reached that stage in life. So which also means that we can take those extra steps and do something else where we can ensure that if I took 20 years to reach certain career, Anubhuti should not require 20 years. She should be able to reach it in 2 years or 3 years. So what are those extra things which we can do now with our experience and age?
I think it is also about, creating opportunities as leaders for other women or other like younger women to come and contribute, to give them the kind of confidence that, that there's a lot of work that is required in this sector.
Yeah.
And to motivate them to contribute here. See, right now, when you say that the whole Ablanari image that is there, I think that's bygone. Even if you go to most of the rural areas, yeah, they all have taps, and probably that is one thing that.
In fact, there are more women leaders in the rural sector than in the urban.
Exactly.
But and still, the impression is like this: from UN to World Bank to World Water Week to everywhere.
No, so that is because that connectivity, the connectivity to the ground realities is much stronger in the rural areas.
Yes.
And in urban areas, we're not that well connected with the ground realities or what is happening on ground. I think women need to, need to introduce the younger generation, people like us, and I hope I can do that. And that's what I do with the students as well, to empower them, or to tell them, to make them aware about the issues and problems that are there. For me, it was a self-learning journey, and that took time, and to find the correct places to go to, or sometimes opportunities came from upfront, but that just happened. I look at it as destiny or whatever.
And finding mentors, yeah, we had serious difficulty finding mentors who can guide us. I tell my fellows and students now,
No, finding mentors, actually there are people out there to mentor.
No, I'm talking about then.
Yeah, then. No, even then I think there were mentors. It's just that to identify the correct mentor.
Yes.
The skill to identify the correct mentor to take you in a direction that you would want to take, not in the direction that you want to be taken.
Yes.
Or, so that itself is something, and I think that comes with a very neutral, open society as such. So if we can create that platform for the young, women, and not, try to, channelize their energy into what we believe should be done.
Yes,
give them
absolutely.
the freedom to choose. To choose their path, and whichever path they want to pursue. Our job, I think, it should be to lay out the whole opportunities or the whole scope in front of them, and let them choose the path they want to tread on. At some point, if the paths meet and they converge, good enough. But to give them the confidence that if their paths don't meet the path that is taken up by some people, or the popular paths, it doesn't mean that their path doesn't have value or it doesn't have meaning. So to give them that confidence, I think that's our biggest role and biggest job right now. Because if we create that platform of transparency, for lack of a better word, then that confidence is imbibed automatically, and that's one way we'll be able to get in more people. See, right now what I see is that this is what we need to do, this is what needs focus. So who are we to decide what needs focus? What needs focus is our perception and our way of looking at things, but somebody else may look at it in some other way, and that's perfectly all right. So that acceptance is something that we need to establish amongst the upcoming generation.
Very well put.
Otherwise, what's the difference between us and our leaders or our male counterparts? It's the same thing.
Yes. And that is, I think, the difference we have to make as women leaders. I mean, we are talking about a water sector, but that applies to all leadership roles, you know. I want to bring a question now related to the role of platforms or networks. As you have recently joined Wiki Water Resource Council, and you are yet to know more council members and all. I was also not knowing 90% of them a year ago, but now at least everyone knows me and I know everyone because of the kind of situation I am into in the council. But you are also part of many other, council or association, and I feel a little bit embarrassed to talk about Council of Architecture because it really does not perform as council, but sorry, I should not bring that here. But let's say to have a general understanding from you on the role of these platforms or associations, how they help, they can help, or they may help, or probably you think that they are not of any use, but I need to know your perspective, how they can be useful to for women to really make it little bit easier or better for them to rise the ladder of leadership, because our focus is on leadership here. So that's why I'm asking this question.
Right.
Do you think there is any relevance to platforms and networks?
No, platforms and networking is very important. And without that, it is difficult to engage or bring in more participants. So platforms are important, but I feel that the purpose of the platform or the networking, media or medium should be very clear. It shouldn't be, an open like a kitty party. Sorry for using this word, but it shouldn't be like a kitty party thing that the people just come, chit chat, and go away. Sometimes that works, but not always.
That's a trust building process, I will say,
Yes.
but we are not doing that in Water Resource Council.
So,
but yeah, I get your point. Yes.
So I think the purpose of all those platforms are clear. Yes, there should be space for for other ideas and inputs, and space to maneuver around a little bit. But the main goals should be should be set. What are the objectives of this group? What is the purpose of this group? And then it will go on to what activities can one take up, or what activities can a group take up, individual to group and group to individual. That whole interrelationship is important, and that will give an opportunity for all women to take some leadership role, some initiative into exploring a path, and support system from the remaining members to have faith in that, and at least help exploration in that particular direction. So of course these networking platforms and these groups that are there, they play a huge role, but at some point the geography is not, it loses the importance in different geographical settings. Not all platforms will work, or not all platforms are applicable at different geographical settings.
Of course not.
It is even social settings for that matter. So one needs to know, the scope and limitations of one's platform or the purpose. Yeah. So if we are a Vishwamitra group, that doesn't mean we can go and intervene in any other kind of river system, be it say Krishna in the south, because they have their own dynamics going on. We can help as a support system, help them through systemic learning. But I think it'd be wrong for us to go and tell them what to do, what not to do, because they are absolutely aware. So then one needs to understand the limitation. जिसको बोलते हैं मर्यादा में रहना चाहिए, and build and capitalize on our strengths and try to overcome our weaknesses.
Well put. I think, we have to understand that also in Wiki Water Resource Council, let me tell you that people are trying to work together, and we are also trying to do those small networking and capacity building programs. It's a very nascent stage of council. So we are also careful to really do what is required, because every professional is a busy professional in the network, and also to tell you that 20% of the professionals are youth council members. So the grooming is already starting for them, like Anubhuti is here. So just to understand from you, because the platform is inviting people by self-nomination or nomination by others, in your case, sorry, what will be kind of expectation, not expectation, but what do you envisage from this kind of platform like Water Resource Council of the Women Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry? And what do you think immediately, like if we reach out to you for some leadership activities or programs, so how would you like to contribute? So I'm really trying to understand from you the give and take, what you envisage from this platform.
Right. So one more thing I'd like to add is that, as women, we do have a holistic understanding, but as when it comes to a group, group dynamics or as a society, that ecological understanding of water as a system is, I would not say lacking, but it is weak, and that needs to be strengthened. And that is something that will give women the what do you call it? It will give women the confidence. It will give them power to to be able to voice their understanding more sternly. So because their knowledge it comes from their experiences. So
Yes.
if we can support that experiential knowledge with a little bit of scientific knowledge and interrelationship, it'll give them a whole lot of confidence. It'll help them
Absolutely.
boost their capacity also. So because I'm into academics and I do believe in this whole understanding the interrelationship, women do tend to observe a few things, but they don't tend to, or sometimes they cannot establish the interrelationship in their mind, and hence what they communicate doesn't get that much weightage. So to give them that give them that kind of skill set,
Yes.
will, I think, will go a long way in empowering them, in boosting their confidence also, and the confidence to participate then.
Yeah.
Because a lot of women may not have degrees as architects, planners, engineers, or whatever, but their knowledge is not acknowledged enough.
Yes.
Or
They
it's not
even who have degree, they are not acknowledged. That is where we are working
So
right
then-
now, professionals.
So so as this platform is, I see this platform as a platform of, one is networking, of course, amongst like-minded women, but this platform can also be an awareness platform, to
Yes.
understand the whole water gamut that exists, right from issues, demand, supply, right from quality of water, the relationship between river and aquifers, what is the meaning of a bore well, not in not in terms of domestic purposes, but the role of a bore well in the larger landscape, whether urban or rural, and how one can contribute, or how one is responsible towards that water source. So that kind of knowledge, or no, I won't call it knowledge, but yeah, information and wisdom, and hence wisdom, it will actually go a long way in empowering women to participate more confidently into the water sector.
Yeah, very well put. Because there are two things which I can take it right away from your. One thing is, informing people or making people understand the importance of water. But at the same time, because we are women-centric here, it is also important to go across disciplines or across different strata of stakeholders and inform the presence of women in the sector. Because there are talks now among some council members, and even I had talked with few of our interested patrons, that if we can go to all important schools and colleges and talk about women in water, for that matter, so that more girls get encouraged to join the water sector. If we can go to schools and colleges and talk about employment prospects of water, it's not about a woman or men, it is also about talking about how water is essential and people can find employability in it. So just like promoting it so that it looks as good as any other sector, like any other people are doing. So we are really thinking about over all these things. But before I hand it over to Anubhuti, let me just see if Rohit sir and Ajit sir would like to ask very brief questions to you. Would you like to ask something to Neha, Rohit sir?
No, I'm just listening and enjoying the
Thank you
point
so
of view, and I want to be a listener on such occasion to
Thank you so
understand
much, sir.
that
Yeah.
perspective and context.
Thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate your support and encouragement to women like us. And the day, since the day we have known you, I think both Neha and me, we really feel much stronger than before, knowing that we can always call you and get some insights. Neha.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much, Neha, for taking these questions from me. I hope they were not too tough from my end, and I really hope that you enjoyed this conversation, because we never talked like this,
True.
as
True.
individuals. We were always talking about either education or about examination or about water or waterfront. We never
That's
really
true.
got to know each other as individual. I hope we will get more such opportunities, because through this Monday Munching, we really want to acknowledge and appreciate the journey each of you as women who are taking further. And as I mentioned, to create more role models in the society where people like Anubhuti can really talk about it in future. And Anubhuti is now many sessions seasoned, talking to all of you, and she keeps telling me, my God, I am learning so much from all these women. So she has a wonderful question for you. I hand it over to her, and also thank you for the interaction with me. Over to you,
Thanks,
Anubhuti.
Mansi. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mansi, for asking those wonderful questions. I think every Monday I learn something new from everyone. And it's great to know all these women who are there in the council. Thank you so much, Neha ma'am, for taking out time for us today. My next question for you is related to academics, young professionals. So as I can see that you have been engaged with the academic activities over these years, any message that you would like to share with the young professionals who are entering the water sector or the like architecture background, who have, because I myself have my best friend who is doing architecture from SPA, but all I hear from her is big buildings and like urban planning. So how do I tell people about environmental planning? Anything that you would like to tell all these people, we would love to know.
It is sad that we have a niche called environmental planning, because even if it is urban planning, rural planning, transportation, physical, housing, blah blah blah, everything is part of the environment. So I don't know why we need to single out environment and look at it in isolation, unfortunately. But there have been institutions who have had environmental planning. They remove the environmental planning course, thinking you get integrated automatically, but it doesn't happen, unfortunately. And that is why environmental planning needs to have that focus, that forte, that any kind of interventions that we're doing with our environment, whether it is building or it could be as small as regrading the soil. Any intervention with the natural system, we need to understand its impact, its pros and cons, and the consequences of our actions. If we do that in a very sensitive manner and with a well informed decision making process, and I'm focusing on the process here. The end product could be whatever, but the product without the process will not have any meaning, and then we will end up with a lot of very reactionary processes. I think design, architecture, planning is a very proactive field. We set examples for people to learn from, for people to follow. So if we as a profession are reactionary in nature, then we can't expect any other profession to respect the environment, the laws, the land, and the water systems both. Because we are a terrestrial, human beings are terrestrial organisms, and if we don't respect that and understand that, all the engineering, medicine, IT, AI, everything can go for a hike. I think it's our profession that lays the foundation and the platform for all these other activities to happen. So if we are not sensitive enough towards the environment and specifically water, then we are doing more disservice than service. to society and nature both. I don't know, I hope that helped.
Thank you so much, Neha ma'am. I think increasingly, although perhaps not quite enough, but people are thinking how to less harm the environment. So I think we are on that stage where everybody is concerned about what's happening. My last question to you is, what is your message to youth to engender the water sector?
What is my message to? I didn't get it. Can you repeat that?
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. My question is, what is your message to youth to engender the water sector?
I think it's the same thing. Water sector. If we isolate water from soil, from topography, from landform, and the the plants and the whole floral and faunal systems that we have, there will be a problem. So water sector, I look at it as a fulcrum between the abiotic and the biotic. So just isolating water and talking about water as an independent individual entity would not help. So that's the message that we need to I hope people can imbibe, that is that the dependency of each of these factors that we have and that we are dependent on, the 5 elements that we talk about, or the abiotic biotic structure that we talk about in the system. So we need to understand the interrelationships also. So our interrelationship as water, if we symbolize water, our relationship with land and our relationship with other living beings is important, because we all feed off each other.
All right. Thank you so much, Neha ma'am, for taking out time today. I felt the conversation was flowing, and I hope you felt and enjoyed the conversation with us today.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
We are glad.
Got to speak live on air about things that I normally don't speak about. So
yeah. It's like be like water and I am water. May you all remain an inspiration to others. We are so grateful to have learned about your water endeavors today. May you continue your water activities and keep us posted. We look forward to the coming Mondays to learn more from women in the water sector. We will continue with the Monday Munching and Musing on every Monday, 5 p.m. For regular updates, please follow our social media platform. Thank you. Do take care. Bye.
Thank you so much, Neha and Anubhuti. It was nice, very nice talk. Neha, was it too much for you?
No, it was very refreshing. I had a long day at work today, so I wasn't sure how the session would go, but I really enjoyed it.